But I still think that we need, that Park and Rec is a stepping stone, and that's why that's a rotate. Because they get the experience of working for a city, so now they can go to another city and get a job, not just doing Park and Rec.
All right, it's 7 o'clock. Let's call this city council meeting to order. If we could all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Doing a roll call, all voting members are present. We'll open up for public comment. If there's any public comment tonight, you're more than welcome to come forward. Come on up and just state your name and address for the record, please.
This one, right?
Either one?
Danelle Van Vliet, 508 Moline Loop. I just wanted to congratulate Luke Merrill for his unofficial win.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Any other public comment tonight? Hearing none, we will close the public comment. We'll move on to adopting the agenda. Are there any changes?
We do have a few changes. We had a removal of K4, the city ash tree survey presentation, which will be moved to the next meeting. And that is all.
Motion to approve with changes.
Second.
Motion approved by Councilmember Lundin, second by Councilmember Peterson. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. The agenda is adopted. Next, we'll move on to the approval of the city council meeting minutes, July 30th, 2025, city council budget work session meeting minutes. Any questions or changes on those?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion approved by Councilmember Lundin, second by Councilmember Peterson. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. August 6th, 2025, city council meeting minutes. Any
Motion to
questions?
approve.
Second.
Motion approved by Councilmember Lundin, second by Councilmember Peterson. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Council committee reports. Anybody have any tonight?
I just want to, for information, the BMX has a meeting and a race this weekend, right? And state finals. So that area in Bluebird Park is going to be a little busy this weekend. So just heads up.
Almost as bad as the rodeo.
Any other council committee reports? Okay, I have a couple. So today was the big day at LMC for me. I had like 8 hours of meetings today. The Improving Local Economies Policy Committee, which is, economic policy and recommendations that LMC gives to the state legislature. I was down there and we talked about a whole gamut of things, but something I'm specifically going to work on for a policy recommendation is requiring municipalities to save money for their local matches, especially with highway projects. There are a lot of municipalities down in the metro area that don't save money for local matches, and then when MnDOT comes through and says, hey, we're doing a project, they don't have money for it, so then they have to take state money to pay their share, and I think it's a poor fiscally not responsible thing to do. And then also I wanted to write something about requiring every city to have some sort of CIP, kind of like we already have. There are cities that don't have a CIP, which blows my mind. So I think that cities should be required to have those things. It's just, planning for the long-term fiscal future of a city is important, and I don't think, the rural areas or other taxpayers should pay for a city that doesn't do those things when they have big mess-ups. So I'm gonna write something for that. I'll work with the League of Minnesota City staff on that. And then there's another proposal regarding group home density for residential programs. That's been a big concern for some of the metro areas and up here. They're having issues with too many group homes in certain residential areas. I've heard a couple complaints here in Isani about that, so I'm curious to see what they come up with for that. And there's about another 60 policies that we'll be going through, but those were the two that I think are the most impactful here. And then for Human Resource and Data Practices Policy Committee, we had a presentation today on the paid leave push. So the state has a mandate for paid leave. We had, 2.5 hours discussion on that. I'm going to write an amendment with the provision of local control on that. So the state legislature fought last year to try and change that, and it wasn't the majority vote. It was kind of a tie situation. So nothing really changed with that. They were hoping, and LMC was hoping, that it would limit the cost to everybody for that paid leave, but they weren't successful last year. So we're going to try again this year. And like I said, I'm going to write an amendment that has a provision for local control. So hopefully, local municipalities can choose to participate in that or not. Because, if you have to pay medical leave, we should have a choice, and I think there's going to be huge impacts on the local economies, especially. Say if every business in the city of Isani has to pay, up to 20 weeks of paid leave to every employee, that's a huge cost, and that's a huge cost to do business, and I think businesses will be more likely to leave Minnesota for other states. So I think the cities and the municipalities should have some control over that, so hopefully we can talk about that. I know government preemption down there is a big discussion with all cities, and I think every city wants their own decision-making ability with things like that. So I think that'll be a favorable deal for everybody, but we'll see how that goes.
Really appreciate all the hard work you do on that committee. So happy we added that as a committee. I mean, there's so much information and so much that affects our city. And I like the way we're able to actually influence a little bit and have them look at things a little different. And I'm glad you're there. I'm hoping we have a dedicated council member in the future to be able to get to those meetings.
So that's something I was actually going to propose. I would like to have a special work session where we work as a group together to look at all these policies. There's, a couple hundred policies that LMC has, and I think each of us has a different perspective on what's important. And if we can work on it together, maybe 1 or 2 times a year, and we can come together and say, hey, the city of Isani would like to see this change, then whoever's the LMC rep can write a provision for that policy and try and get it, in front of the board and see if that works for every city.
I like that idea. Should we do maybe 2 work sessions a year?
Sure.
Instead of committee of the whole, we have a LMC work session?
I think that would be good. I already got copies of all the agendas
Okay.
for us, so.
I think that's a great idea. I think it's really good to see what, the changes that may happen or that could happen in the near future that affect us as a city. Yeah, I think it's a great idea. And maybe what ideas we can help bring to it, that common sense ideas.
Does LMC stay neutral on that stuff, or they screen out stuff that they don't want, or how is that?
So what happens is any person that's a member, any city, any of the 485 cities or whatever, can bring forth a policy recommendation, and then it's voted on by the group of people that are there. So usually it's 60, 70 people, so everybody takes a vote, and if it passes, it passes. If it doesn't, then it doesn't pass. So it's a majority of the city vote in the state.
Can I ask one quick question? How many smaller cities like us have representatives? Are we getting out-represented? Is it
Yes.
mostly, that's what I thought.
Yes.
So it's all the larger cities putting their agendas forward, and the smaller cities like us, we don't have a chance to be able to say, hey, wait,
I don't think that's true. There's just never been a voice in there that's really been vocal for the smaller communities because they're outnumbered. But I think last year I was able to, talk some of these things, some small changes that made things more equitable or better for us here in Isani. So if you can make those changes in smaller impacts, I think it helps.
Okay.
How many of those sessions are there per year?
3 for each of the 4 committees, so there's a total of 12 meetings.
It's over 3 months.
It's over a 3-month period. So
Okay.
next month is the last meeting. So probably next year, I'm gonna come forward with a couple things that we had talked about, but next year, I think we should work together, or later this year, to look at these and dive deep and see if there's anything that city staff or us wanna do.
You should see if you can get like Cambridge, North Branch, Princeton, surrounding cities, to get somebody to go down there along with you, because you
Yes.
start showing those numbers, now you're no longer just one voice, you're multiple voices.
Cambridge does show up virtually.
Yeah, well,
Yep.
virtually, personally, if you show up in person, carries a lot more weight than sitting behind the phone.
Right.
Assume townships are not?
Nope,
it
they
has to
have
be
their
city
own.
Municipalities?
And then the county has their own as well.
Okay.
I think it's a great group. I mean, you can get the consensus of all the cities in the state, and there's no better sounding board than every city in the state making policy recommendations to senators and House members, so. Any other council committee reports? All right, we will move on to business item K1, resolution to consider approving a special event permit for summer send-off showdown car show.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. A special event permit application has been received for the Summer Send-Off Showdown Car Show. The event will take place August 23rd from 12 p.m. to 6 p.m. for a one-day event. It will be held at the Isani Firefighter Rodeo Grounds. Is a car show, food trucks, local vendors, and businesses, and they will have 5 to 6 portable restrooms. Spectators will be park on the public streets adjoining the rodeo grounds, and a temporary liquor license has been approved by the city and the state. There's an estimate of 200 to 300 people in attendance.
Motion to approve.
I do have one question. For this one, I would assume it's not required, but at what point expected attendance is security or police presence required or requested? How big does an event need to be before it would become an issue or forecasted for?
I mean, it depends on the type of event too, you know, if it's an alcohol-related event or non-alcohol-related event. And then it would relate on, you know, if you're pushing that 2,000 plus people, that's a soft number, but that would be kind of where we'd have to start having some plans, you know, because then we'd want them to start having, what's your first aid plan when you have 2,000 people on site? You know, what's the security plan and stuff like that? That's a rough number, but that's where I'd kind of start with.
Okay.
And I will say this is put on by a local business owner, and he was pretty excited about it, so I think it's awesome. Travis, did you have any concerns about anything in this, about as far as alcohol and vehicles, or no?
No.
Okay. Sounds good. And there was a motion and a second on the
I
floor.
motioned
right?
it.
Seconded?
Motion by Councilmember
You
Lundin.
seconded?
I started a second,
Okay,
so second.
okay. Motion by Councilmember Lundin, second by Councilmember Heeman. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. I'm looking forward to that one. I should be there for that, so. K2, resolution to consider approving a fireworks display permit for Delightful Acres Weddings and Events located at 27600 Polk Street Northeast.
Good evening again. The applicant has requested a permit for a fireworks display. All required application materials, including the site plan, liability insurance documentation, and state certifications have been submitted and reviewed. The Isani Fire District Fire Chief has inspected the site plan and recommends approval also, and has signed off on the permit.
How often are they gonna have these fireworks?
I don't know, this is just for one wedding event, so I'm not sure what their plans are. They would have to get it approved each time.
I would strongly recommend that. If they're gonna have it for every wedding, they should come in and request it. There's a lot of people, and I'm not one of them, but there's a lot of people with pets, fireworks, set their dogs off. I had a dog that was that way. I do totally understand that. You know, I mean, it's always that 2 weeks before 4th of July and week or so after, although this year was actually really good, that those fireworks are going off continuously. And there is a lot of controversy about that. And that noise will travel from the south end of town.
Oh,
into
yeah.
town. So I don't have any problem with them getting it, but I think they need to request it every time they want to do it.
It makes sense, and it gives the neighbors and the community a little bit of heads up in time, know when it's gonna happen if they're keeping track of what we're doing, so.
Like I said, it's like I was talking to Mayor Merrill. A lot of things are respectful, being respectful to
Right.
other people. Just because you want it doesn't mean everybody in the surrounding area wants it. So you gotta be respectful, and I don't think that's being disrespectful to ask for that. So I make a motion to approve it.
You said that it gives people a heads up. Is there anything beyond this meeting that notifies the public that it's happening?
But they would have to come in and ask, they're gonna have to come in and ask for it, and the city would be putting it on the Facebook and the page. and
The city is gonna put on Facebook that permit was approved?
Yeah, generally it is. The news, they're gonna put it in, the paper's gonna put it in as well.
Okay.
I think that there's only like 4 neighboring houses there.
So I'm not concerned about, I
It is
just,
a pretty
I don't,
secluded area.
I wasn't aware that the public's notified every time one of the, outside of like through the website.
We have very minimal,
We do on
like,
that.
requirements for this permit. It doesn't happen a lot. Usually it's just us pulling out this permit. And so if you guys want to recommend in this approval to have them notify everybody within 350 feet, which is our standard for special events, we could do that also. So it'd be anybody within 350 feet of the property line.
I think that would be fine. There's only like 3 or
Yes.
4 there.
Okay.
I
So
don't
I'll
know
add
that we,
to the-
I don't think we should post it on Facebook though, because it might be their private event. You don't want people.
No.
That's what I
already
was thinking too. It is a private
But
event.
we
You
will
don't
have
want people.
them, then we'll add that to this resolution to add it to, send a letter, a notification letter to all properties within 350 feet of the property lines.
That sound fair?
Sounds fair to me.
And the fire chief was 100% okay with it, so I'm good.
Yeah, he did a site review, went out there himself to make sure everything was safe. He said there's plenty of space out there for this. So.
Yep.
350 feet should only include about, what, maybe 2 houses
yeah.
there? Yeah, so, yeah, we're good.
Second.
Who made the motion?
I did.
Okay, motion by Councilmember Lundin, second by Councilmember Holmgren. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. K3, resolution to consider amending the policy for police presence at meetings to include the Park and Rec Board.
It's me again. Just given that we've been in an election year for 3 years in a row, I think we've just had events recently that cause staff to recommend having all meetings, city meetings, have police presence. All city meetings except for the park board do currently have police presence, and so we don't know if that was an oversight in the past, which some people on staff think it could have been. We're just recommending an amendment to this resolution to include the Park and Rec Board.
I'd like to
Motion to-
get Travis's intake on this.
I think back in 2019, probably Steve, you're the only one left in that room. So there was a resolution made. The premise behind that is there was conflict between 2 people that sat on that board, and it was their recommendation because they wanted a police officer whenever the full council met. That's where that resolution came from.
But there was a request, as you and I had conversation on this, by a few mayors ago that wanted a police officer, but it was never put in the resolution.
And so back then, I became chief in 2019. Ever since then, I came to meetings. I plan on coming to meetings for the next 5.5 years and 11 months. Whether there's a resolution or not, so I don't really think the resolution is necessary. If they don't show up, if I don't show up to your meetings, I'm not doing my job. I don't need a resolution to tell me to do the job. As far as a park board, if you want somebody to the park board, we'll have to post it as overtime. So you're gonna have to appropriate around $3,500 out of the park budget to pay for that. Or you can call 911 if there's a problem.
And so Stephanie is usually here for those meetings, correct?
I'm not always here, it's the Park and Recreation Coordinator.
Okay.
So I
But
was,
as of right now, if
now
we
I will
go,
be for a little while.
Yes.
But yes,
so if they were to call an officer, what do you think the response time would be?
I've given the pronounce, I don't have it at the top of my head, but it depends on the time of it, what's going on, anywhere from 3 minutes to 11 minutes, depending on where they are, what's going on.
And also, you have to realize that meeting is held in here. There's a camera right there that records everything in here. So if there is a problem with a person, and they make that call, I don't think we have that big of an issue. There again, I go back to respecting other people.
And my recommendation for the park board, as well as even this board, if there's any issues, you go to recess. You can go to recess till it gets resolved. As far as pulling another officer, it would have to be an overtime piece because I couldn't justify to the public that it's more important to pull a patrol officer for a park board member than it is for the community. So we'd have to post it and have somebody else extra come in for that.
I just still think it comes down to, not everybody, not us 5 up here can agree on everything. And each one of us are passionate to what we believe is right. But at the end of the day, we have to walk out that door. And at the end of the day, we gotta come back to another meeting. If we cannot be adults, then we shouldn't be involved in those meetings, plain and simple. You need to respect everybody else. Everybody is very hard, they're very staunch in what they believe in, right, wrong, or indifferent. We're trying to be fiscally responsible as a council up here, and I think by adding, and you may say it's only $3,500. Well, that's $3,500 that could be going to a summer helper for the public works, or somebody in the wintertime, or a staff member, or something that it necessarily really needs to be here. I do have to say, if you're coming in and causing a disruption, I would say you probably should stay home, because the park board is only an advisory board to this council, plain and simple. And the other reasons that the other ones are always here at the other meetings, because all the other meetings, full council is here at that time.
I want to learn the math on this one. So we have 12 meetings a month, or a year. How are you coming up with $3,500? That's,
3-hour minimum,
okay.
no matter if they're here for 10 minutes.
That's what I needed to
3-hour
know.
minimum by contract at their overtime rate.
Okay.
So I was thinking maybe this was for actually getting like police opinion on things. You know, we've had the issue with climbing on top of the new park equipment. I know there's a lot of stuff that we bounce off of you guys, off of you especially, regarding all sorts of stuff.
And that's why I think it's important for me to be at these meetings.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
I'll
George, can
continue
you
to
give any insight on why this was added to, we're not given any info, so I'm not on the
To
park
be
board, you
honest,
are, yeah.
I'm always frank. I was just as, I was wondering just as much as you. So when I heard staff recommend it, they may have a reason, and they, unless somebody else on Park and Rec had a concern and talked to staff. So I'm not opposed to it, at least short-term even. Maybe it isn't needed long-term.
I don't think it's worth the overtime. Myself, I mean, I don't know if it was an issue up here, an issue out there, an
No,
issue,
I-
I'm not,
No issue up here that I'm aware of. We
You're
actually all
friends with
get
me on
along really
Facebook.
well.
Do you ever see me post political stuff? There's a reason I don't do it. Because I'm gonna offend somebody because what I believe in. And to me, Facebook wasn't meant to have this pissing match between peoples.
Well,
In
that
a-
isn't the conversation
But
we're
what
having
what I'm
right
saying,
now.
though, George, is the reason I don't do that is for that exact reason. I'm an adult. I don't need to cause controversy one way or another on that. And that's exactly what's
that-
happening when it comes into if there's problems.
I don't think that's what the problem was with why this recommendation was, and that's a personal opinion. We'll leave that out
I
here.
will say that a staff member did feel unsafe at and after a meeting recently, and so that is where this came from. And so it was a recommendation by myself and Administrator Wood to put this on the agenda.
was that
And
from a
like I
member
said,
of
we
the
have-
public or from our group? Can you say, I mean,
It was from a staff member,
no, were they scared of someone on the park board?
from the public.
The public, okay.
Yes, not
And-
from the park board.
In the past, we have had, prior to 2019, there was calls for, well, during the incident we talked about, is why is that resolution, there was 911 calls for officers to come to the council meeting. We've never had 911 call for an officer to come to a park board meeting.
Well,
Chief Meyer, are you familiar with what happened?
No, well, generically, but
What's your, based on what you know of it, would you recommend it, or,
it's not criminal.
okay?
let's find a happy medium here. Let's have them here at the next meeting. Let me talk to the park board members. Let's see what's going on. Let's see how many of them pass.
They said staff member, not park board member. It's city staff, not park board.
I know. I know. I'm sorry. It's just a personal conversation I'll have with each individual park member and see how they're doing.
Okay. Any other comments, questions?
Well, I just want to clarify, we're being told that it wasn't a complaint from the park board, it was a complaint from city staff.
Right.
Okay.
And that's why I wanted the police at the next meeting. Then I'll talk to the park board members and see how. I'll
If
be
that's the
frank
direction
again,
you're
I'm
going,
always frank.
we need-
I know that more than one of us up here have a permit to carry, and I don't know how many have permits to carry on that board. And if, I would feel safe in the room if a couple of them are, so just be open and honest. So that was a conversation I'll have with them.
And if you want an officer to be at the park board, you're probably gonna make a motion to appropriate the $270 from the park board to the police department to cover that overtime for that shift.
Sure.
Don't look at me. I don't think we need it. Hopefully the problem is resolved or people can be adults about their differences.
What
I don't-
isn't that? I want
don't know.
staff to feel safe, and if staff doesn't feel safe, then I want to make sure staff feels safe. That's my concern right now.
Sure.
So if,
Would that alleviate their concerns, though?
what?
What you're talking about doing, would that alleviate their concerns, or would their concerns still be withstanding?
Well, if they're concerned, I'm just thinking, let's just kick the can down the road 1 month. Let's have a police present next meeting and then go from there. So have instead of a resolution, just a verbal thing, we'll take the 275 out of the park and rec fund, move it over, and give us another month to deal with this issue. Is that fair for now?
I think.
I mean,
we'll
is that, I should ask you guys because you're the ones voting on it. I mean,
We would still recommend just updating the resolution to say that, is what I'm.
I would say we table that resolution and follow along with what Councilman Heeman wants to do, if that's the case. But I definitely don't want it coming out of our general fund.
right.
It can't. I mean, you want to cut taxes on things, and you ain't cutting them when you're doing things like that. Even though it's $275, it's $275.
I'll be on board with doing it just for one meeting, but I'm with Steve. You know, everybody has to start acting like an adult, and everybody has their opinions, but there is a fine line you cross. If you're in here doing anything other than speaking your mind and making other people uncomfortable, then I think a different process needs to be had. But for a cop to have to sit here every single meeting, I don't think should be necessary. But
But you
I
have to
like his
realize,
approach. Can I ask you a quick question, Travis? So what is the criteria for, let's say, the Park and Rec Board or staff, if they feel uncomfortable with anybody in the room, what is a minimum criteria that we can ask PD to come and remove that person?
Let's separate that out. I thought you were going somewhere. So what's the criteria for somebody that feels uncomfortable or unsafe at the end of a meeting, or something's happening and they want an officer to respond? The criteria is that you call 911 and have an officer respond to address whatever's happening, right? So that's that one piece of the puzzle.
Okay.
The other piece of the puzzle is a little bit more conflicting than that. This council does not have a public input policy anymore. They used to have the 3-minute thing. You don't have that anymore. So in essence, if somebody stood up at the podium and went on and on and on for 20, 30, 40 minutes and things you don't like to hear, there is a First Amendment issue there, because you don't have a public input policy. You don't address the 3 minutes like they used to in the past. So if somebody's up here ranting about political things you don't like, or even non-political things you don't like, there's gonna be a challenge with shutting that down, right? Because that's a public input that you guys have all expressed that you want people to give as much input as possible. We don't have a parameter, so just because you don't like what that person's saying, you can't tell them they can't say it. So that's like on the public input and the fact that you let public input happen during the meetings, same concept. Somebody interrupts in a meeting, past precedence, you've allowed public comment during the meetings. Let's say if somebody that opposes, and maybe they're talking about something that doesn't even relevant to the city, and they're going off on alien invasions of who knows what, right? Because you set that precedent, you don't have the policy, it's gonna be really hard to shut that down just because of what they're saying, right? So we're talking, two different things. That's just public input, somebody talking, speaking their mind against. It seems disruptive, but we don't have a public input policy anymore as far as a council. So we can't, how do you say that that person that you don't like up there for 10, 20, 30, 40 minutes, you don't like what they're saying, hard to shut that down. Now, if somebody's being violent, making threats, now you're going into the criminal realm, right? That's an easy issue. So that's the two pieces of the puzzle. And I think most of the piece of the puzzle is not the criminal element, it's the other side of that spectrum, and that's gonna be a challenge.
I would like
100%.
to, I'd like to get an attorney's opinion on that, because the chair can adjourn a meeting at any time, and all you'd have to do is adjourn the meeting
what I
temporarily,
said,
shut
yes.
that person down, and then re-adjourn the meeting and don't ask for any public
And
comment.
that's why I said at the policy at the adjournment.
I mean,
like I
there's
mentioned
a
earlier.
back door to everything.
Did,
Because I would like to keep public input
Right.
as much as possible.
But just without, that's why I said you have to have the procedure down as far as the adjournment, like I mentioned earlier.
Okay,
Right? I mean, that's with any issue that you're gonna have, that's the easiest solution.
But would we need to have something in writing that states that?
I don't think so.
That was my next thought was, and I would have to ask Stephanie about it, is if there would be to have something put in there as like a mission statement on, that you walk in and you see that if you're being disruptive or people feel uncomfortable with this, what's being done, that you could be asked to be removed. I mean, I don't know if that's the right way of doing it, but that's just thought that's in my head.
Yeah,
you
but
went to
the whole thing of
recess-
being uncomfortable is interpreted.
Right.
If you went to recess and then came back out, couldn't they just hijack it again then?
Potentially. I mean, that's,
I think most of the time it's people, when people get really passionate about a subject.
There's a cool down?
And then have a 5 or 10 minute cool down period, and I think most people come to, their
no, but
senses and.
I do agree, George, it would be beneficial to have that direction from the city attorney just based on that, because
Sure.
you can go on YouTube and see people that make a living at city council meetings and getting thrown out.
I didn't,
When you go to the city attorney, can LMC clarify
Making
that?
money doing that.
Right, and it's hard with that, the state changed some laws. I think it went all the way to the Supreme Court where it's really hard to disrupt a city council meeting now and even get charged. Before, you disrupt it for any reason and you get a disorderly and you're out of the room, but things have changed, which I think is a good thing. It's a people's house. They should have a right to talk.
when did we remove,
Excuse me, can I just make a suggestion? Under city code, section 8, article 3, it goes all through how the meetings are ran, the Robert rules of decorum, public speaking regulations, everything. So it's all there. Why don't we just go back to it?
No.
I don't think we
No.
ever, Travis, you'd said that we got rid of this. I don't think we ever got rid of it. We're just,
No, it was followed,
it's still there,
it's there, but it was followed 100%.
discretionary.
No, it was followed 100%, I want to say, well, you can think of the mayor that followed that for a reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then after that, it changed, as far as following that rules of,
Okay.
yes.
And the reason that was always 3 minutes was you could get somebody that, and I'm not saying that they're wrong for wanting to carry their point across, but public comment that's not on the agenda is just to say, hey, I'm aware that I want you aware of this, and we can proceed from there. That's why it was always a 3-minute rule. Because you could get somebody talking for 2 hours on something and it never changes.
I've only been on council for about 2.5 years, and I have not seen any issue with the public that we had overruns where their word wasn't valued. Until it becomes an issue, I don't think we need a policy in place. If we have some people abusing the privilege continuously, then unfortunately for the rest of them, we'll probably have to put a policy in place short-term until
Well,
that
the policy's
situation
never changed.
changes.
It's always been there. We just
Right.
allow them to go over it.
Okay.
That's
So the
what I thought,
policy's
that's
still
what I
there.
thought too.
Or actually follow policy by the book if we.
Can we
need
get
to.
clarification on that for the next
Yeah.
meeting or whatever? We still have it in our policy, it's just, it's light. It's enforced as necessary.
It is in policy.
Okay, that's what I
And
thought.
that's the problem, is enforcing it for one but not another. That's the
Yeah.
huge First Amendment issue,
Sure.
right?
And that's why I always
Okay.
urge people, if you want to have your voice heard, get on the council agenda.
Well, and that's where Park and Rec then, a committee that isn't a council member that is informed as we are up here on some of these policies, maybe they're gonna need a training session if you're gonna chair, because
Well, and that's what I said.
a
I think
chair
the
that doesn't
recommendation-
know all the internal city policies then could, in theory,
And I think that's a conversation you have with the chair, is if you have an issue in your meeting, what's your plan? Is adjournment, and if it's that big of an issue, give us a call. I think that would solve that issue,
sure.
as long as they know that's the protocol.
Yeah, it's just a volunteer committee too, so basically.
I think the most important thing is that council's aware now, and if further issues arise, then you can at least make, further considerations at that time if you feel necessary, but just wanted to, we did want to make this recommendation because we did think it was pertinent to now, but if you guys,
Is that staff member still going to be here
for the next meeting,
for the park? Okay.
I think a recommendation to have them come in for at least the next meeting.
For one
Is that a-
meeting
is
and
that a
then kick
motion?
the can down the
Yes,
road.
I'll make a
Let's
motion
just-
that we have an officer present at the next meeting. Let's see how this goes from there.
Well,
But I think we need to just,
Park board pays the police.
and the park board pays for it. It doesn't come out of general fund. And then I think we need to have the chair get well-informed on going into a recess or canceling, stopping the meeting at that point. And
Okay,
if that
bring them up to
continues,
speed on,
but if that continues, when they go into recess, make the call, have an officer show up.
okay.
That, to me, makes just as much sense. Go into a recess, step out, make a phone call, 911, officer shows up.
Deal with the situation.
That'll de-escalate the situation. So that would be my motion.
All right, and just to clarify, it will still be coming out of general fund. It will just be coming out of the Parks Department overtime instead of the PD overtime, just to clear that up too.
It's gotta come out of the park and rec funds.
Yep.
Then, George, if you can try and reach out to LMC for clarification rather than going to the city attorney.
Yeah, and I'd like to reach out to, on our policy. Yeah. And, then. we'll
It's
have a
still there,
short
it's still there in
discussion.
policy.
Okay,
Yeah. We never removed it.
But it's the application clarification
Right.
piece that needs to be done, yeah.
yep,
Yeah, see if LMC,
okay.
which is a discussion we do have with the chair when they're new to any of our boards, which generally for planning commission and EDA, it's a council member. It has been precedently the last few years, but for park board, we do go over that every year and say that when there is public comment, you have to set the precedent. It's your duty and right to figure out what that is now, like at the beginning, and then be equal across the board. And so we do have that conversation, so they are aware.
Well, I do remember a conversation about public input at Park and Rec, and it was just, yeah. We'll have another conversation about it and put a policy in place if it isn't.
All right, Steve motioned, I'll second it.
motion by Councilmember Lundin, second by Councilmember Holmgren. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Aye. Motion carries 4-1. All right, we will move on to the consent agenda. I would first just like to say thank you to Now That's Waffles for donating the tip money back to the police department. We really appreciate you guys being out there and people are excited about those waffles, so. And I thank you for being a valuable business in our community. You're always at our events, so we appreciate that. I also want to give a shout out to BP Metals for donating some signage to the police department, which is awesome, and I'm excited to have that sign there. Any other questions or things to bring forward on the consent agenda?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve by Councilmember Lundin, second by Councilmember Holmgren. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. The consent agenda is approved.
Motion to adjourn.
I did have a couple questions on M2 and M3. Travis, if you look at the July Police Department report, there's 2 categories for speed in the report. One that just says speed, and there's been 2 this year, and then another that says like speed admin.
Oh.
In the July,
And the citations including speed.
so what is the speed that's just 2? Is that? Yep.
Year-to-date on that.
Assuming you have speed admin, that's admin citations issued.
Correct.
Yeah, it says speed month to date 0, speed year to date 2, and then there's another thing that says speed total 7 months to date, 48 year to date. I'm just wondering what the distinguishing factor is there.
And, you know, we talked about the records management issue being, you know, the citation numbers being really low. That will be resolved on September 10th.
Ah, good.
So there is a resolution to that, a good resolution to fix that. And luckily, there's no economic impact in theory, because we had never taken that payment to our old vendor, LETG, was still in the budget, because at budget time, we hadn't switched over. I didn't want to risk taking it out because I didn't know where we were going, so we haven't expended that expenditure yet. So the monies are still in this year's budget for 2025. So we'll be switching back to that on the 10th. So we're not going to be asking for money
Okay.
to pay for that because we never took it out.
Will there be a refund from the other company?
That's between the county and the.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't have any money into that company as far as the city.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the only money we had into was that Digit ticket writer, which I don't quote me, $6,000 for a year. Yeah, I mean, they're not defaulting on their contract.
Sure.
But we're not gonna be utilizing that, so that'd be that piece of that puzzle,
Okay.
yeah. All right, so I think I hear. So the administrative citation, that's just, you're talking about on the bottom 2 of traffic offenses?
Yeah, it says, so if you look at the speed category, the first speed category, it just says speed. That's between warrant, PU, and DAR DAS. It says speed 0 of month to date and 2 year to date. And then if you go down 3 lines, it says speed total.
Yeah, I'd have to look and see what they're pulling for the number for that generic speed, because, yeah, I mean, the bottom 2 make sense,
Yeah, right.
but that other one, I'll have to look at where she's pulling that number from.
Maybe it's criminal speed or something, maybe?
No, it's be the same.
Okay.
So,
All right,
yeah,
sounds good.
I'll look into it and get back to you.
Okay, thank you. And then M3, Stephanie, the July building inspector report, if you look at the 2024 permit value, it's listed at $409 million, and all the other years have been averaging around 10 million. So is that just like a zero is off in that if you look?
That is not off. That is 3 apartment buildings.
409 million?
I don't know, unless you. It is, I think it's 40 million. I do think a comma's off.
Okay, so it's off.
Now that I
Okay.
think about it, I do think it's 40 million. It was still substantially higher, but not that much higher.
Okay, so that's just a typo.
Yes.
Does that throw anything else off anywhere else in our budgeting or permitting
No.
okay,
That was just this time. I haven't noticed it before.
okay.
So,
I was gonna
because
say.
I usually pay pretty close attention to that one, but
Do we build like US Bank Stadium here and not know it or
that'd be
something?
fun. That'd be a nice value increase.
Yeah, all right. All right, that's all the questions I had. So Steve, you had motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion adjourned by Councilmember Lundin, second by Councilmember Peterson. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. We are adjourned. Thank you.